I I always have. I don't know. I've never been in the head of another songwriter, so I don't know. Maybe this is very common, maybe it's not. But I always see a lot. Like I see a song very visually. I see it in colors, and I see it in moods and in characters, and sometimes in whole stories. And I sometimes when I lack inspiration, it helps me to go and see a painting or a photograph. So I think my brain works with that visual aspect.
It's so great to meet you here on Zoom.
Likewise. Yeah, lovely to hear your voice.
Yeah, you've got such a lovely background, and your whole picture for me is the same as I would have imagined after hearing your music.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I've got a little plant here, which...
Thank you so much for the lovely sunflower. Are you a gardener? Are you a good gardener?
Well, I do my best. I am... No, I only have like a little garden. I have a little, like a patio, and I grow tomatoes and cucumbers. Yeah, this year I even had cucumbers. The tomatoes aren't red yet, and I have like a little space with flowers. But the true gardener is my mother. So she always plants the seeds, and she tells me how to, sometimes you have to bind, for example, the tomatoes, you have to bind them so they don't crush. So she's the one guiding me, and I'm just trying to keep them alive and give them plenty of water and love and attention.
Well, but that's so great that you can learn from your mom, because I think it's I think gardening or planting your own veggies, and I think it's just rewarding. It's even if it's just 5 tomatoes that you harvest, then they taste just differently.
Yes, they do. And it is also, it's something that connected to the earth.
Absolutely.
For some reason. So whenever I water them, you can smell like the water in the earth. And it's whenever I do it in the morning, I start the day differently. Or sometimes I just sit outside and I have a cup of coffee, and I can see those flowers, and they smile at me, and they add a little bit of color.
And I totally agree.
As you said, it's rewarding.
Yeah. But tell me, where are you based? Where do you live?
I am based in Zurich.
Okay.
So a little bit outside of Zurich. And basically
You grew up there? Did you grow up there?
I did. Like I now live 2 streets further down from the house where I grew up. So I didn't make it very far.
Yeah.
Talking of my mother, I think she's really happy about that.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's very, very close to Zurich. It's 7 minutes by train, and I live very close to the train station. So I'm basically in Zurich.
Okay.
So this is where I'm based.
But your music is so beautiful. It's so
thank you.
Yeah, really, it's lovely listening music, and the lyrics. I love the lyrics, and especially your latest release, "Vacation from Myself." I love
Did you like it?
Yeah,
it was
I do.
Completely
and it's got
different.
a lovely rhythm as well.
I used to listen to it when it still wasn't released, but I already had like the full mastered copy of it, and I would listen to it while I was jogging. I jog a lot, and it's the perfect rhythm, and it's upbeat, so you don't feel like you're suffering while you're.
Yeah, I want that one on my playlist.
Yes, yeah. Do you jog or?
I jog. I jog a little bit.
So try it out.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Oh, I just need a little vacation from myself. All this hype
thank you.
What inspired the song?
For once, I wanted to write something lighter, like a little bit more upbeat for summer.
Okay.
But it actually, I wrote it, or I started writing it a year ago, and it it really was the result of a kind of like a burnout. So it now sounds very upbeat and very light, but I was it really was about just having to stop and having to take some time off and reanalyzing some patterns and how you sometimes try to ask more of yourself than you should, or you and I just tried to put a very funny spin on it and to keep it very light. So, but that was that was the soil from which the song grew.
I throw my thoughts into the ocean. Let all my worries float away. Cake for lunch and wine with breakfast.
That's so amazing. And I spoke to a singer-songwriter a while ago, and he said that he can actually pinpoint by listening to his songs, the recording of his songs, or he said the fact that you record the songs, you can go back in time and sort of realize where you were, and you will then probably also in a few years' time look back and realize where you were at the time, like in a emotional space.
But that's such a beautiful way of putting it, and I think that goes true with any kind of music that you listen to. You know that, I don't know if that ever happened to you, but if you've never listened to a song, or you have listened to it for a few years, and then for some reason you hear a melody and it takes you back in time to that moment or that smell or whatever it was, and such is the power of music. And I think as an artist, it's also very important to give yourself the permission to just have it as a pinpoint in time. And be like, oh yeah, that was this phase and I sounded like this, and maybe in 2 years' time I might sound different, or when I look back I'd be like, oh yeah, that was cool. So it's actually, it's a lovely record of yourself in two ways.
And can you also think of how amazing it is that there will be somebody who will be able to absolutely relate to what you're saying in that specific song, because they might be also, experiencing a little burnout or something, So it's how powerful is music that you wouldn't even know, but there will be many other people who would be able to relate to that.
Yes. And this is just, people always ask about what are your dreams or what are your aspirations. And I think if you manage as an artist, whatever kind of artist you are, but if you manage to become your art becomes a little part of someone else's life, or it helps someone in a phase of their life, or even if it's just if someone remembers, I don't know, driving along the coast with friends and having the song in their ears. I mean, this is the most beautiful thing that can happen to you as an artist, I think. And it's also something that you never know whom it might reach, and in what part of you. Maybe it makes you sad, maybe it makes you happy, maybe it helps you. But that's the beautiful thing. You can just create art, you can set it free and leave it to the recipient to make it their own in some way.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I know you do photography, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's even the third dimension. You know where you were when you took that picture.
Yeah.
So you captured one moment in time, and then whenever someone else is looking at it, you don't know, maybe it triggers something in them, or it reminds them of a similar moment in their life. So I think that just goes to show it works for all art.
Exactly, yeah. And I always think of it that if I see a picture, I know the whole atmosphere around it, whereas other people make their own story when they see it. So I think that's the advantage that you have when you create, is that you know your story and and the background and how you were feeling, but the people that see it or hear it, they can adapt it to their story or their moment, or how they felt when they saw it. So that's the wonderful thing about art, that it's not just the person who's doing the art, but it's it's the ones that receive the art and how they receive it, and what situation they are in.
Yes, and it makes you. It takes a lot of pressure off yourself as well.
Yeah.
I think because you have to let go of control. You don't know how it will be received. And if you're lucky enough, it will be received in some way or another. And that's, I don't know, I always feel like that opens up a lot of freedom, and while creating as well.
Yeah. But are you a perfectionist? Do you hold on to your work until you feel it's ready to go?
No, I don't think so. I don't. Once I've started and once I'm in the process of writing a song or putting a melody on top of lyrics, I think I can let go. Sometimes for me, it's rather the starting. So sometimes I have like this pure, wonderful picture in my head of how I want it to sound or how I want it to be sculpted almost. And then as soon as you start actually working on it, it loses this magical touch a little bit, because you start to make it real. It starts to become reality, and you will share it with the world at some point. So it isn't just yours anymore. So
Yeah.
this is the one hurdle that I feel every time when I start. But afterwards, once it's in the process, I don't know. I think I have too much of the desire to do the next thing and the next. Like there's so
Oh, yeah.
I
Understand
think
that.
if I
Yeah.
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 But how is it with you? So if you, I mean, there are a lot of things that you can control in the moment, right? The lightning, or when, for example, when you're outside. So, are you a perfectionist?
Actually, no.
Yeah.
I love imperfection, and I'm never overcritical. And I love photography that's just in the moment and not over edited. And this is why I actually like real life photography, where I capture, say, I love to photograph couples walking hand in hand. And I love that because you cannot stage it. You have to be in that specific moment there. You have to be sometimes so quick to take it. And I love the fact that you can't overthink it and you can't stage it, because the moment, as with like portraits and things like that, the moment you start staging it, you start seeing, oof, it should have been like a little bit like this or a little bit like that. But when it's like that in the moment, you have to take what was given in that moment. And I love that. I love the fact that I can't change anything about it.
And that's where the beauty lies, right?
Yeah.
Exactly in this, and I'm sure you couldn't even describe what it is, but this being in the moment and almost being very humble and being like, okay, this is what is given to me at the moment. I will do the most of it in the moment. Yeah, that's a wonderful way of looking at it, and observing just the art and not, I don't know.
I think it's sometimes also this thing, the longer you dwell on something, the more difficult it is to release it, because you'll always find something you want to change. And sometimes it's that the fact that it's not perfect, because there's no thing as perfection, but the fact that it's not perfect makes it actually easier receivable. That it's easy on the eye, because I mean, I think we are inherently just attracted to normality. Not this overly polished.
Or to real.
I don't know. It's my opinion. Maybe some
Yeah.
other people are different, but I'm more of natural. What comes naturally.
And I think this is something that people, no matter their level of how much art they consume or whatever, they can feel it. They can feel if it is real, if it is natural.
Yeah.
And I think we should never forget about that. So
yeah,
I always.
I do think so. I think also as performers, I think the audience can sense when you are anxious about what you are doing, that you want it to be so perfect. And I think that anxiousness, it's a type of anxiousness, that is this good enough, or I want it, I do want it to be perfect. And I think audiences can sense that.
Yeah, and they start to feel uncomfortable with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I took acting lessons with a French actor, specifically for French chansons. So, and we did a lot of, like, he would call it method acting. That's his big thing, and it was for me, it was horrible. It was so painful because I had to strip away everything. It was all about getting to the essence of whatever it was that you were feeling, which can be very raw, and sometimes you have to let go of trying to control the outcome, trying to control the audience as well. So sometimes he would stop me and be like, no, you're trying to show people what they are supposed to feel. And then he was like, people are not stupid. They will feel something. You don't have to try and tell them what they should feel. And as soon as I started to go really inward and try to let go of whatever I thought I should do, it sounds complicated, but it actually isn't. Whenever you see someone perform and you feel like, oh, they're doing it for themselves, they're very much in tune with themselves, you start to be attracted to them. And you start to feel comfortable just watching. It's like cats. Have you ever seen a cat passing by?
Yeah, that's true.
It feels like they don't take notice of you, but it feels like they have several lives inside their head.
Exactly. We're so always intrigued. Yeah.
So I think we should be more like cats.
Yeah. So these acting classes, does it help you then with your music? I mean, with your performances?
Yeah, it did. Back then, it did. It was painful. And and it wasn't about, I wouldn't try to do Shakespeare afterwards. It really was just to go deeper, to delve deeper into the lyrics. And it's something I'm still working on. It's easier when it's your own songs. Much easier. Because you don't have that step in between where you have lyrics that you didn't write and you have to somehow find a meaning that works for you. But whenever I do a song that wasn't written by myself, it helps a lot.
Nous aurons pour nous l'éternité dans le bleu de toute l'immensité, dans le ciel, plus de problèmes.
So you've tried to find your own story then in the song?
Yes, you have to find something that again puts you in the moment. I think that's the one that, just as we talked before, you have to find something that lets you be in the moment while you're performing in the song. And this being in the moment doesn't mean that it's a very special state, because it doesn't mean that it overwhelms you. So that was a big problem for me. Sometimes it would just overwhelm. I would just cry, or I would get angry, whatever it was. And then you lose this flow in a way. So you're not in the moment anymore. And the work that I tried to do with this coach was to find something, some feeling, some experience that would create a bridge between what was written and how I could relate to that. Even if it was lyrics that were written by someone much older than myself, or I don't know, 50 years ago. Yes.
But you write also and sing in English. So, but English is not your first language.
No, my first language is Swiss German.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you
close
live
to
in
Zurich, yeah.
Vienna, right? So it sounds, and I speak English and French.
And French. But you prefer to write and sing in English?
I think this is the one language that comes natural to me. So I can feel, I sometimes think in English. So it's very close to whatever I'm trying to express myself. And sometimes I do Swiss German lyrics.
Oh, do you?
Which is a completely different feeling. It feels different to sing. It feels different to write. But I like doing it. Just it comes much more naturally to write in English, which is weird in a way.
No, but I find I've spoken to also German singer-songwriters who prefer to write in English, and I've recently also spoke to Afrikaans singer-songwriter, but he prefers to write and write and sing in English. So sometimes it's the language you feel you can express what you feel better in the language. Well, this is what they what they say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then again, you are also, sometimes a song needs a sound, and some songs just need the English sound. And when you some songs, if I would try to put them in Swiss German, it just wouldn't work. And vice versa. I think some songs, they're made to be sung in my own language, and I'm sure that none of these singer-songwriters that you talked about, none of them were like, oh yeah, it would feel more personal if I write it in my own language, right? I'm sure that that was what they were called to do. They were wanting it to write it in English.
Parisian hands
But what is your musical background? Did you study music, or are you a self-taught musician?
No, I did study music. I studied at the conservatoire in Zurich,
Okay.
and I did an exchange in the UK in Wales. I studied jazz vocals, and I took a lot of like composition one-on-one classes as well. Some acting. That's the beautiful thing about. I mean, you could argue whether you have to study music or not, but it opens you up to such a vast, rich offer of people you can learn from. And so I did study music, yes, and I graduated 2 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, really? And
Yeah,
then, so you always had this idea you wanted to do your own music, because you said you studied jazz vocals.
Yes, but for me, I mean, I love jazz, but it was always my own music, and that's where I also felt most. While I was studying, if there was one thing that I knew I could do, sometimes it breaks down your confidence a little bit when you study. But the one thing that I always knew I was good at was writing my own songs. That was something where I could be like, I think I feel confident, or I feel comfortable, and the whole French stuff, but so nothing to do with jazz at all. But yeah.
And did you do that before also? Did you do that as, when you were younger, when you were still in school? Did you experiment with songwriting?
Yes, I did. I started singing when I was 11, and I had a wonderful teacher who would encourage writing lyrics very soon. And and we experimented, and then I took guitar lessons while I was at gymnasium, and I would bring my first like little drafts and with chords, and then I would experience with jazz chords, and I would put lyrics on it. So that was very much something that I felt compelled to do very during my teens. And I rather think I probably lost it for the first few years of university. So this just gentle approach of just finding your own voice and then creating something, which is very common, I guess, when you start actually going
I think it's,
to university.
But I read an article a while ago where it says actually that while you're studying, you're not that creative because you are so focused on your marks and on completing all the assignments and on all the information that you're given. And that, it's only afterwards that you really apply that and that you really get a chance to then to start creating.
And you absorb everything.
Yeah.
Everything around you. And I would, when I was 15, I would do an exchange in Ireland, and I would try to learn like Irish singing, which is in Gaelic, and it has lovely melismatic, like
beautiful
melody, beautiful. And there are schools where they try to push like Irish heritage, and I would take lessons, but I would also take lessons in Gaelic. I forgot everything again, but my teacher then was like, you're like a sponge. And I'm like, thank you very much. I was like, no. And I never forgot about that. Let's all be more like sponges and try and absorb everything.
But this is, you mentioned how Ireland, I was actually, listening to your music, I do see there's a definitely sort of a influence from that. I
Really?
couldn't pinpoint it, but now that you said, I wanted to say that there's something sort of that type of style that definitely influenced your music.
Ah, lovely. See?
Yeah.
I couldn't, like, I did not do that on purpose, but that's
Yeah.
that
No,
that's what happens when you're a
you
sponge.
see. Yeah. Oh, that's so
Thank
beautiful.
you.
But you also have beautiful videos, I must say. Very creative. So it's not just the music, the songwriting, but lovely visuals that you have as well.
Thank you. Coming from you, I mean, that's a compliment. Thank you.
So do you think about that
Yeah,
while you're writing, or is it after everything's completed, you think, okay, how am I going to sort of
I
do the visuals?
I I always have. I don't know. I've never been in the head of another songwriter, so I don't know. Maybe this is very common, maybe it's not. But I always see a lot. Like I see a song very visually. I see it in
Really?
colors, and I see it in moods and in characters, and sometimes in whole stories. And I sometimes when I lack inspiration, it helps me to go and see a painting or a photograph. So I think my brain works with that visual aspect.
And when you broke me open, I saw meadows of green, little golden flowers, and children in the rain, vineyards and roses and mornings in May, old men on benches, magnolias in the park.
And so for me, it's whenever budget allows, I love putting, at least you can never be very like true to whatever is going on in your brain, but to try and have a little extract of that visually, and for me, it's just part of the song as well. So
And do you do do you collaborate then with filmmakers, or how do you get how do you get that done? Do you have to sort of explain to
depends.
somebody what the vibe is there?
I would always, whenever I would work with a filmmaker, I would give them a mood board of whatever exactly what is in here or what was in there, and poor them would have to sort out something. But they're very good at doing that, and I think it helps. The same goes for cover art. I think whenever it helps creatives to whenever you do that. So I did. I worked with filmmakers, and that's such a lush experience because you don't have to think about too much. You do your mood board, you discuss, and they take your view into account, but they have their own language and their own way of how to look at the song, which is also nice to have a different view on whatever you created. And then sometimes when budget was more tight, I would do it all by myself. So the last one in the lake, I don't know if you've seen that one.
I saw it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it was very cold.
Oh, is it?
The things you do for art, yeah. But that one was self-directed, simply because I didn't have that much money to spend on. It would have been so much more comfortable to have someone directing, and like simple things like the way like your hair is not looking good, like all those or also maybe we should try this angle, and I was trying to shout it from inside of the lake, be like, no, try the other angle. And they were like, we cannot hear you. And I was like, I'm freezing, just hurry up. But it
but
was a
it,
great experience. I loved it. I loved it because I was in full control. I could do whatever I wanted,
yeah.
and it worked as well.
Well, there's a singer-songwriter here in Vienna. He just lives downstairs from me, and he does his own videos, but he does it so well with his phone. Or most of his music videos are done with his phone, and
Cool.
yeah, and he'll just go through the city. I know one of the songs. He literally went out his front door with his phone and just photographed where he's or filmed where he was going. And of course I know the area because I know where he was going then. And he said that it was just, and the song was basically something along the lines of the routine of the day, and he did it that way. And I thought it was so brilliant because it really, the camera is shaking, and it's like just a normal thing, but yet
In the
it
moment
suited
again.
it, yeah, but it suited the song, it suited him, his whole image. And I think it's brilliant that artists can do that. Today you can, somebody shot a documentary with an iPhone, so it's possible to do it.
Yeah, and technology makes it so
Yeah.
easy as well. So I imagine if he's got a camera on his phone, I don't think you would. I mean, I don't know if you see, because it's shaking and that was done on purpose. But if you just look at the video quality, it's so high up there. So that's such an advantage that we have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It opens you up to express yourself in different areas of art, or to take it further, to be like, okay, I want my song to look like that, and I'm trying to make
Exactly.
it work. That's lovely. I have to
Yeah.
maybe tell me his name afterwards. I want to see
I'll
him
send you the link.
walking through Vienna.
Uh, but yeah, it's actually so lovely because in the summer when all the windows are open, I can actually hear him practice. So I hear some of his songs sometimes, and it's so lovely. And then it was so lovely for
You
me to
hear this raw as
I
well.
hear it raw. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you're the
used to
first one listening to them.
Yeah.
That's very precious.
Yeah, and so it was so lovely to see then the video as well, and the music together. So
Oh, I remember that was Sunday morning at 8. Yeah, I
exactly,
remember
yeah.
that song.
But
Oh, lovely. So you live in a very vibrant, like in a house full of melodies and art.
yeah, and some people, I've heard some people get complaints about people practicing music in a building or so on. I think it's beautiful. I love it because it's the process. You're sort of part of the process. I can understand if it's maybe music that you don't like and you have to listen to it every day, but for me, something like that, it doesn't bother me. I sometimes hear somebody plays a flute, and I live across the road from the music university. So sometimes when it's a quiet day, you can actually hear from the practice rooms. You can hear a bit of music going on, and for me, it's just a reminder I'm living in Vienna when I hear that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of all cities, that should be the one where there's a lot of music floating
Yeah.
through your window.
It should be.
That's actually, that's such a beautiful image. I mean, you opening the window and then there's music coming in, and it's
Yeah.
also, it's not just music, right? It's energy. It's good energy
That's
in
the
your
thing.
house.
Yeah.
So
That's the
I mean,
thing.
unless I don't know if you have,
Yeah. The sunlight also, like houses with sunlight, I also think that's, brings energy for me. Absolutely.
do you hear, like, do you hear your photographs? Is That's just something I'm curious about, how other people
No,
perceive their or do you feel it, or is it more the
I
visual?
feel it. I feel it. I do actually. I sometimes, when I photograph people, so when I do portraits, I can take, say, hundreds, and then I would go through them to sort them out and so on. And then I will always, and this always happens, I will find one or two that I think, it sounds strange, but I think I see the person's soul, that I can see something like that expression that I sort of like, oh, I really feel it. I really go, sit in front of the computer and I go like, oh,
Wow. Yeah.
like that. And the saddest thing for me is always when I take that one to send that, I choose then a few that I think is the right ones, and then let them choose what they like. And many times people don't choose that one. And I've
Yeah.
always thought about it, why? And I think it's because people don't like to see themselves always really as they are. I think people have a perception of themselves, and sometimes that one is so real, it's so true, that maybe it's too true. You know what I mean? And then
You
they
might
don't
not
take
even
it. So
want.
I don't. In the beginning, I was feeling like, hey, why don't But I'm at peace with that, because I think
Yeah.
it's maybe I can see it, but they can't see it. So something like that. So
Or they
this,
can feel it, but they might not even, they might not want to put that intimate thing of
yeah,
themselves
it's. I
out to
think
the wider public.
yeah, that can also be, but it's like that as it's something it's a blick that they have, like a sort of expression, and then I think, oh yes, this is
Yeah.
you, but they don't.
And does it take you long to get, because this is the soul, the essence of someone, and
Yeah,
does it take you long until you, like, not until you've captured it, but until you've somehow drawn it out of them or felt it, or is it something
well,
that
it
you
takes a
immediately?
while. Yeah, it takes a while for somebody, because I think a camera is a very intimidating. So I personally don't like to be photographed, but it's very intimidating. If you stand in front of somebody with a camera, it's
Yeah, and you
intimidating.
freeze. Yeah.
So you have to. Some people are more comfortable because they've done it many times, but some people are very aware of the camera. So then it takes a time for them to get at ease with the camera, and that's usually then where you start. So the first few pictures are usually nice, but it's when you go deeper, when they more. I would always also say, sometimes when they get tired, when they've had
They
enough,
put their
then
guard down.
but
Yeah.
then it's the
Yeah.
true. It's sort of then, because then they're not acting anymore or posing, or then it's just
Being
okay.
self-conscious again.
Yeah,
See,
yeah,
this is exactly what, and then you get to the true.
yeah. But my street photography is that's what I that's oh that really I can sit here and go through the pictures, and I'm just like I'm literally expressing loud when I see things, and I think, oh, I'm so happy about this picture. And then yeah, so no, I do feel it.
And again, we
It's
see it
fine.
through your eyes in a way. Like we see something that isn't you, but you saw it and you
Yeah,
chose the
yeah,
moment, you chose the angle,
yeah.
and so that's also very personal.
No, that is. And I think it's also a thing where I shouldn't be talking about my photography. I want to talk
No,
about
no,
your
no.
music.
There's plenty
No,
of
but
room left to talk about me.
it's also, but maybe it's also for you like that, where you think, when you sometimes in the beginning, when I started taking pictures, I thought, would this look right? Would it be appropriate to or am I right in thinking this is beautiful? You know, it took me a while to sort of think, but I'm not doing it, you know, for who am I? Whose approval do I want? I want to put it out there for whoever needs to see it or whoever would be touched by this. And like you say with the music, it's if it's one person, then it's one person that needed to see that. But I think if you try to, would this be okay? Would this be okay? Should I do this? Should I do that? Then you
Yes.
lose it totally. You know, then it's not authentic anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, it takes, or at least for me, sometimes it feels raw and it feels vulnerable to really, first of all, to be connected with whatever is inside of you and to try to bring it to the world, so to speak, and then to release it and to let other people hear. This is very, very, very intimate. And again, the other person will receive it as theirs and not as, oh, that's you. And this always helps me.
Yeah.
And I think this is the price that we have. This is what we are supposed to do as artists, to try to be as raw and as honest as possible. And sometimes that works more easily, and sometimes it's harder, and sometimes it just flows, and sometimes it doesn't. But I think we should always try to get as closest to the truth, to our truth, as possible. And it can be very frustrating when you, for example, at the moment I feel very empty. Like I sit at the piano and there's not much coming out of me. And this is such an uncomfortable feeling and at first I was like, well, never mind. It's like sports. You just, whether you're tired or not, you just go and you train. Because when you just sit there and wait until you feel inspired, that's like the cliche of being an artist. But then I was like, and I was always doing, and I was always trying, but it just I couldn't feel anything. And that's really, really uncomfortable. And a lot of my friends said, yeah, but this is exactly the emptiness that sometimes you just have to try and get comfortable with that. And at some point it will change again. But it's a very...
Yeah, but is it for you sometimes a blockage that something wants to come out, but then you feel maybe I shouldn't be singing about this, or maybe it will show too much of what I'm thinking, or don't you have those feelings?
No. But then again, I think my songwriting style usually is, I prefer to take an image and put this image into words to express what I am feeling, because I myself see it that way. So I very seldom say I am sitting in my house and I feel depressed. I would try and find an image to
I see what you mean.
describe it. So, and that makes it, I think, a lot easier. I don't think it's a blockage. I think at the moment, I think it's more like something is brewing. Something like, it feels like emptiness, but it probably isn't. It's just, it's not ready. It doesn't have a form yet. And this feeling of, but there is a lot of things, but nothing is, I cannot put it into words or music or whatever. This is what feels empty or frustrating or like, and to just live with that, to bear this and to be patient. I'm not sure if I'm a very patient person.
But do your inspiration, is it your, what happens to you or around you? Is that what inspires then these images that you see that you want to write about?
yes, it's usually it sounds very egocentric, but I think it's always what happens to me in one way or another. It's as soon as something I see a flower growing, and it already like it is me in a way. So as soon as I'm touched by anything, I think that's when it inspires me. Yeah,
But
and I
that's the
love
beautiful
story.
thing. Yeah, but that's the beautiful thing, because it's then it's something that you felt, that you then
Yeah,
do, create in your song.
and it's a gift. It's a gift to feel. Sometimes it feels like when I feel very intensely, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, like I would love to just switch it off and be like very like not feel. But then again, no, it's a gift to be able to feel and to be, and then again, it's one thing to feel it and to somehow be able to perform alchemy and to do whatever you felt or whatever you saw and put it into something that you can share with the world. This is what I'm trying to do. So,
But that's so wonderful, and it's so evident in your music, really.
thank
But Caroline, tell me, your parents, were they supportive when you decided to go the music route? Because I know nowadays in schools and parents are very much into, you have to go in a direction where you can earn a lot of money and have career security and things like that.
I think I was in a very, very, very supportive household. So my parents I think I could have done anything as long as they saw that I was happy. And I think I'll come back to that, because I think that was very, like, as that they saw I was happy, and that I mean, they saw the amount of work I put into it. So I think to this day, they still respect this a lot. So it was never, I have other friends where it's exactly as you said, where the father is earning a certain amount of money a year, and he's transmitting this to his son, is like, yeah, whatever you do in music, you will never have this 6-figure whatever. And it's a huge pressure, because there's a different kind of wealth in music, but that was never the case in my family. I used to, when I was a teenager, I was aspiring to be a journalist. So I wrote, I don't know, by the age of 13, I would be a freelancer at the local like newspaper. And then really, like, I earned a lot of money doing that. Yeah, and I stopped, I think, in the second year of university back then, because, and then with time they started to giving me like all the music subjects and all the, every concert of Jodel Club, I don't know.
Okay.
And I would write, I would go to the concert and I would write about it. And it was so interesting. So that was actually what they saw me do first. And music was something that somehow got woven into it in a very parallel way. And then when I decided to go to music, like to apply to music university, they were always very, very supportive. And I think I'm very lucky in that. And yeah, I've never felt, I also never felt the need of proving anything to them. I always feel the need of proving a lot to myself, but for them, no. So, but they're not musicians.
Oh, really?
So,
okay,
no,
so
no.
they, yeah.
So my father is a journalist, and he would actually, at some point, he would be like, yeah, like being a journalist is such a tough, like trying to get to a certain point as a journalist, it's tough. Why don't you do music?
Oh,
You might be happier. So like, and my
oh,
mother
that's
is
wonderful.
It's
Yeah. And your mom, what does she do?
she's a history teacher.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yes. And at the gymnasium, and she's teaching in English as well.
Oh, I see.
So we have these immersion classes. So yeah, and she would always, which lovely. We would, all of my siblings and me, we would learn instruments from a very young age, and we could, we would go to concerts. We always had music in our lives. We would sing. She would sing. So, but I think what most of all inspired, like, what do you need as an artist? You need to be creative. You need to have a lot of imagination. And so we would go, to castles in France and look at castles in France.
Really?
Or and as a young kid, that leaves an impression. Or we would go to,
Yes.
and also Vienna. We went to Vienna and we saw the Klimt,
Oh, yeah. The
I don't know
keys.
the museum in which it is.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
And I was very young, but the golden, like, it was just so, that was very inspiring, even though they weren't like, oh yeah, you're going to be a musician, you have to like know this
no.
and this and this and this. It was very very organic.
If you get that exposure to all these things, then you, like you say, you're a sponge. You just absorbed everything, and then this is what you're now creating. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I'm very grateful.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important, and it's like you say, it's children have to be exposed to art, although they don't have to become musicians or artists, but that exposure that brings that changes the way you think, or that in some way it sort of connects with something else that you're doing.
Whatever you do, like if you become a mathematician, you will look at your numbers in a different way when you were exposed to music, when you were taught how to feel art, or how to also honor art. Like, oh, someone is performing and we will be quiet, and afterwards we will clap. So there are social skills as well in there, or human interaction. So I think you don't teach children how to appreciate art, but you show them how to feel, how to think, how to see the world, how to express themselves. And this will be useful for whatever else you do in your life. Which is also why I think you should learn, like, if you are able to, you should learn an instrument, just because it will help you, even if you never play again, but it will have an impression on you.
Absolutely. I think the skills that you acquire when you do some form of art is so valuable that my wish is that schools can really allow children all to do some form of art alongside maths and science, because I think the time you spend on art improves the way you think in science and the way you think in maths and the way you think for the rest of your life. So it's really not a waste of time. It is really up there with
all the other
subjects. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
I totally agree with you.
Well, Carolina, Caroline, is it? But Carolina is how you probably say it in Zurich.
No, we say in Zurich, like my Italian grandmother says Carolina, and all the others they say Caroline.
Caroline.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's the more French.
Yes.
Yeah, Caroline.
Yeah.
Well, Caroline, what you said before, when the wishes for you is that you touch people with your music, but But what are the wishes? What would you like to see happen in your career?
Like concretely, I will release my next single very soon. It's going to be a sunflower, by the way.
I wanted actually to say to you, I hope there's a song about a sunflower.
Yeah, there will be.
Beautiful.
Yes.
I'll watch out for the release.
Yeah, very soon. And I am doing a project in Paris about a French singer, Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you don't know her. It's like Edith Piaf, but it's not Edith Piaf. So it's like if Edith Piaf is here, Barbara is here. It's different in singing and in interpreting, and so interesting. And at the moment I'm learning all about her life, and I'm trying to again connect with her lyrics and work with a French vocal coach. So this is what I will be doing in October to have it ready next year.
So is it an album that you're doing then?
It's a project, so it's going to be a concert.
Concert, okay.
Yeah, we might record it, but that's further down the line. So this is the two most like eminent things on the schedule, and a brother. I would love to go back to playing. I was hiding myself a little bit. I was, I don't know why. There was a lot, like I was working a lot to finance all the singles that I put out. And somewhere down the line, I felt, again, maybe it's this emptiness that I felt. I just didn't feel comfortable performing, like exposing myself. I felt very comfortable just being in my room and producing, but now I think it's time to take that plunge again. So I would love to perform a lot more. But these are all like in the next year. I think you were asking about more broadly, right?
No, anything, for the next year is also good.
Yeah.
Not everybody knows exactly, but yeah, it sounds amazing, and you have to perform because your personality and it's so you absolutely, if you can connect the music to your personality, it's absolutely possible. What I'm, the way I'm talking to you and what I hear, you are so one with your music, so you have to perform.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down afterwards. I have a little journal for rainy days where I will write like things like that. Sometimes it feels so good to have it like mirrored to yourself from the outside, from someone you respect. So thank you very much. That was
it's
very
true.
encouraging. Thank you.
No, it's absolutely true. Yeah. Because I sometimes, you see and you watch on Instagram and so on, and it's always for me interesting when I actually speak to somebody, if they are, if it's the same. Sometimes it's a surprise, or, but with you, it's absolutely what I saw and who I'm speaking to now, and the sunflower that you sent me, that was so beautiful and so wonderful. You just made my day. And now, and I put these all together, and it's absolutely you. So you are so authentic.
Thank you. That's about the most beautiful thing that you could say to someone.
Oh,
so
really?
Thank you very much.
It's a great pleasure. No, it's true. It's absolutely true. But it was really so lovely to talk to you. And I hope that I can one day see you in concert. And I'm going to definitely, a vacation from myself, is that on Spotify?
It's everywhere, wherever you can
that
stream.
One will
if
be
you have a Spotify,
that will go on my playlist now for my walking and running.
Wonderful. Through Vienna.
Yeah.
It reached Vienna. Isn't that lovely?
And I do sometimes need a vacation for myself, so that would be very fitting.
There you go.
Yes, yes.
Lovely. Thank you. And
But
thank you
let
for
me- It's a great pleasure. And let me know when you're in Vienna. Maybe we can grab a coffee.
Oh, that would be so lovely. Yes, and the Sachertorte, right?
And a Sachertorte. We can do that, yeah.
And when you broke me open, I saw meadows of green, little golden flowers, and children in the rain, vineyards and roses and mornings in May, old men on benches, magnolias in the park. But love